Class number 3, we're getting into the week 3 of our semester. Hope everybody's enjoying the semester so far and you're learning lots of new information and some new material. And we're going to continue with the digital drawing segment of this semester right now. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and switch my screen now and we'll get started. All right, so here we are. Here. Before I start, I like to ask questions. Sometimes I should do it before even I start my recording. But it doesn't matter regardless. You might have questions while I'm recording, so it's okay. Those of you that do have the hands up, do you guys have any questions or you're just answering my question? Previously, I was asking the students who has the Adobe Creative Cloud software because we, at this point, this is week 3, we do need it by now. So make sure you guys have that software there. You can lower your hands now if you do have it. That's good. All right. I'm going to go ahead and, as always, I'm going to ask you if you can see my screen. You can see my screen, right, everyone?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. The YouTube channel is up and running. I don't know. I did mention this last time just to kind of let you know there should be 2 videos by now. So there's the class 1 and class 2 videos. You can watch those if you haven't already. I do have views here already. That's good. If you did miss the video, make sure you watch it. We are going to build videos of or add to the library as we move along. So you're going to end up with as many videos as we record in the future. I would say at least a dozen or so. Just give me some time to upload it after the session. I do have to go through my process of not really editing, but processing the video, uploading it, and doing all this permission stuff to get it on the YouTube channel. Okay, so we're going to talk about the main project a little bit today as well. You also have an assignment that's due. Okay, this is the digital drawing assignment. So if you go down to the Illustrator module under class number 1, there's an easier way to find this information. Obviously, I'm going to quickly, I know it's our, 3rd week in school, but just to make sure everyone's clear and understands how this works. This is the Wordmark logo assignment. Another best way to find it is you can go under gradebook. Okay, you can see all the assignments here. You can also go to a calendar and then click on due dates. This goes for all your classes. So far you have 1 assignment and 1 project. I'll get another assignment really soon. So you have 2 assignments happening this semester and 1 big project. There'll be an in-class work periods as well that I will assign on Wednesdays. So make sure you keep an eye out on those. But those will be done in class. So it's different when we do the virtual class here. So this is due on the 18th. Today's the 16th, so it's due on Wednesday. The reason why I made it Wednesday is because I'm going to be in class in person. And if you do need any help or any type of clarification with this, I can last minute type of thing, I can help you. But make sure you don't leave it till last minute because it's, these things you need some time to get going, especially when it's a logo and things like that. I did add some more stuff from the last time. I did Smiles and More for the logo for the dental clinic, and then we have another company called Drench It, and that's another thing we did with the theme. You can pick any one you like, but those are just the 2 I'm going with right now. And these are the details. Some of you asked me if you do have to create a business card. That was just to me to give you an example of something to work with so it doesn't look too plain. If you give me a different document size or if it's not a business card, that's fine because I do want to see the logo at the end of the due date. And these are things like more than 2 different solid colors, up to 2 different fonts. And this is the AI format will be submitted. All right, as well as the SVG. AI stands for Adobe Illustrator. SVG stands for Scalable Vector Graphic, which is used for websites and things. So if this logo gets approved and you have to build a website, you have to produce an SVG format. Used to be PNG a lot, but I see more and more websites now use the SVG format. All right. Any questions while I'm on this page right now? Because usually people have a lot of questions about projects and assignments. So if you have questions, let me know. If not, I can move on to my next topic. Okay, we're all good. All right, and I see more people joining us. So good morning to you as well. Those of you who join us a little later. All right. Like I said, we're gonna have a lot of fun in this class with the digital drawing program like Illustrator. You can do so many wonderful things. Today we're gonna explore some other fun possibilities and some other professional results we can obtain. Then we're gonna move on to the more advanced stuff as well. It is week 3, so we kind of pick up the pace, of course. Now let's go to the content side. And I want you to go back to the Illustrator module. If you do want to join me on a second computer screen, which a lot of my students choose to do, that's even better. If you want to switch screens while you're doing this, that's fine too. If you want to watch me, because the recording will happen, and try this later, that's also okay. All right. So last week we covered just some basic introduction of the logos. I do want you to download this because I want to see some of the styles that we incorporated. We might review this a bit today, and then we're going to move on to this next one, which is the Android logo exercise as well. Okay, so 2 things: download this file, and then we'll move on to this one. We're going to kind of amalgamate these 2. I felt like we didn't cover everything here last week because some of the other stuff I was trying to explain. So let's just kind of go through all of it very quickly here and get it sorted out. So download this one, and then if you want to open this one as well, go ahead. So both of these files. Usually that's what I do on the week 2, week 3 segment. I do overlap these classes a bit because there's so much to cover in one class. Sometimes I have to leave room to move things over to the next one. So what you'll get is these files that you're going to download. Can you unzip these the logo exercises file? And there's another one I'm gonna give you in the upcoming weeks. It's called the logo challenge file, which is quite fun to work with as well. We did this one in class last week, the MasterCard logo, by splitting different objects and Pathfinder effects. We did some of the other similar methods as well with using different fonts and different objects and stuff. I believe last week I did some drawing techniques as well with the dental logo. So I showed you what it entails, not just the actual iconic type of elements of your creativity, but the typography is very important also. Now, I know you're also learning some nice design techniques with Felice in the UX class. So the way these classes are aligned is to complement one another. The design methods you're learning there, you can definitely apply them to Illustrator as well. And of course, I'm going to share with you some of my creative methods also. Let me just open up this folder here and just see quickly what we last week here. So we did do the examples here. This was more like in class. This was the lab that we did. Okay. Um, these are some of the logo examples and the fonts that we used. If you did miss this part of the lab, I'm gonna maybe quickly go over some of the techniques. This is more like the United Pathfinder effect. I think we picked Louis Vuitton for whatever reason. We were talking logos and baseball teams and sports teams in general, and a lot of these teams have 2 letters combined as one to make a logo. And of course, then you have the iconic stuff like MasterCard and some of the stuff you can do with that one as well using the Illustrator techniques. Okay, so I'm going to explore some of the other ones today and also teach you some other advanced methods you can apply. All right. So let's start with the application. If you want to follow me, go right ahead. I'm going to create a new document, or a new file, I should say, and that would be 3.5 inches by 2 inches. It's a good business card format to go by. In case you're wondering what's that in pixels, it's 252 by 144. So the reason why we don't care about the size is because it's going to be a vector logo. If I later decide to make this logo a lot larger, let's say I want to put it on a vehicle, like you see those nice vehicle wraps that some of the companies have. And that's we're looking like 8 feet by 4 feet if it's like a mid-truck size vehicle. You can easily scale this up to a bigger dimension. You can even change it to feet and make this like, let's say 8 feet by 6 feet, right? So now I can produce a logo that big or scale the existing one to that size. So Illustrator is quite versatile by changing different various sizes, especially when you're dealing with vector images. It's not a problem. If you're dealing with digital imaging, like photographs and pictures and stuff, you have to be more mindful. You'll have to start with the largest size that you're targeting, then you can work your way down. But you can't go from, low to high. It doesn't work like that. And that's just the way how the computer systems are set up with resolution and original files and everything else. So 3.5 by 2 inches. CMYK color is the default for printing. So we're going to leave that alone in case you do want to print this one day. And this is a pretty nice size business card right in front of us. I'm going to use Command minus to zoom out, Command plus to zoom in, just to review some important shortcuts in the application. As a matter of fact, this works for any Adobe Creative Cloud software. If you hold the space bar, it's always going to give you the hand tool to pan around. And yes, I'm using a mouse with the right hand, as you all should by now. So I strongly encourage you to get an actual physical mouse, not the trackpad. It's very hard to do some of these drawing techniques with the trackpad, even though some students claim they're used to it and they're fine. Eventually, I see them when they become more seasoned professionals. They get to learn the arts more. They realize the mouse is a pretty good investment to have and use using these tools. All right, now I'm going to look at some of the samples here. So if you want to set that up, go ahead. We'll do the MasterCard really quickly. It'll take me honestly a minute to review that part. Even the font that goes on top, the typography, and the registered trademark logo. So if you were to pull this off with the actual MasterCard file, you do have to start with I guess in this case, the ellipse tool, because that's the circle I'm going to use. I'm going to hold Shift and just draw the circle like this. All right. And the colors are like a reddish orange and then an orange color. So I'm going to, from here, click this default colors that are available to me. So this looks like a red orange. And how do I know that's the red orange? Because if I double click on the actual color, foreground color here, you can see the mix of colors. Like cyan is 0%, magenta's 90. Yellow is 85 and K is 0. If I was to convert these two values to 100, now you're getting a true red color, okay? And on the RGB spectrum, the true red would be all the way up here, which is the red value is 255. The green value is 0. The blue value is also 0, okay? And if you want to argue the same point, you may also make this 100%, okay? They do offset sometimes because of the qualifications. Are you doing RGB or CMYK? But this is how you control your color picker from your percentage point of view. And then if you want to apply that color on a website, you copy what's called the hexacode. And this is the 6-digit code that you can use on websites and other types of media for your CSS and HTML inputs. Okay. I'm going to cancel this and go back to my original red that I liked. That one's good. I'm going to take off this black outline or the stroke by simply selecting the object and clicking on the stroke area here and selecting no stroke. It's kind of hard to see, but it's at the very top left corner. That just disables the stroke. So I do have an object with a fill with no stroke. Now, just so you know, you can reverse this clicking on this little switcheroo button. Now this is hollow. This line going like this means there's no fill. It might look white, but it's not really white. The background happens to be white. And if you notice, it's like putting your hand through a ring. You can't really even grab it because it's hollow. It's like it's a circle with nothing in here. But if you click on the edge like this and drag it, then you can drag it like that. And you can see how hollow it is. It's like a ring. So be mindful of this because purposely you might want to create a circle with a stroke without a fill. So for that to happen, you can, of course, increase the stroke weight up here and go to any desired amount that you wish. And now this could be like a circle with that particular um, stroke weight, right? You can then turn around and do this. You can select the circle and do Option, drag, shift. I'm just holding Alt Option or Alt. Alt, drag, duplicates the object. Shift keeps it straight. So I'm holding the mouse with the mouse down, dragging to the right, while I'm holding Alt and Shift or Option Shift. So if I let go now, it's going to stop right there. If I press Command D or Control D, it's going to repeat the same thing. That's like me going under here, Object, Transform. Again, there's a shortcut, Command D. That means move it again and duplicate it again and again, whatever it is that I did. As a matter of fact, you can actually go ahead and keep doing this and making patterns for it. A lot of times that would, we would make different patterns or images for the web, whether it's like a checkerboard or some kind of a, pattern of a logo design or whatever, right? Because then you can make these a lot smaller. Watch this. With Shift, I'm gonna, oops, just make all these smaller. Yeah, I missed a few here. I'm gonna select all of them, right? And this could be something that you're creating for, let's say, like a background or a design. Then you grab the whole row of circles, Option drag. Maybe we'll do something like this, Command D, okay, step and repeat, right? So you can do lots of interesting things with the software if this is something that you want to design. Of course, doesn't look like much, but the power of step and repeat is unprecedented. You can do so many different things with it. Even in production work, when I do stuff for web or print, I can't tell you how important Illustrator is as a tool to make things happen. Okay, so I'm just gonna press Command or Control Z if you have a PC or Mac, and just go back to my original setup here. I'll delete these other rings, and lo and behold, I got maybe two more. What do you think of this? I'm sure you can all understand what logo this is. I'm just going to Option drag, and there you go. That's how you would make the Olympic rings logo, just by drawing a bunch of circles together, right? And of course, there's different colors, of course, of the logo. You got the blue, black, and red. I believe it's the top. Let me just quickly, I'm changing the stroke value, not the fill value. And then we have, I think it's yellow and green. And again, it's a bunch of hollow circles that are transparent. And you can see how iconic this logo is. And all it took me was to draw a couple of circles evenly, distributed by one another and copying them. It's not perfect, of course. I got to tweak it with measurements and alignment options, but nonetheless, you understand how the process is. And the best part is it's transparent, right? And I always like to show this logo around week 3 because this is when you have to understand how really the true art of a digital program like Illustrator is, because it's not just about doing this, because the argument here will be, well, hold on a second. These links are not intertwined. These rings are not connected, because this one here can easily fall off. This should be connected into this one. The green one should be connected to the blue one and so forth. So if I send this to the back, um, arrange, send to back. Now I like to use the shortcuts, Command or Command Shift, the brackets, the curly brace brackets that you're going to use for probably programming or JavaScript or something. It's the same as the square bracket. So if you use Control and you press that bracket, but if you hold Shift, it goes all the way to the back. So I'm going to practice the brackets, Control Shift, left bracket to the back or to the front, basically, to arrange the object. As you can tell, that also didn't solve my problem, okay? So no matter what I do, I can't get this ring to look like it's connecting to the other rings. So again, Illustrator is such an advanced program that you should be able to do this, especially in Illustrator. But I'll ask you one thing: what other program can make this happen? Not too many, right? So let's go ahead and see what the next steps may be if we were to attempt to do the real Olympic rings logo. I'm going to select the entire 5 rings in this case. And we just missed the Olympics, by the way. It's like a month ago we had the closing ceremony in Paris. So we're not that late doing this, right? All right, so we're going to go to Object, Path, okay? Outline Stroke. This is a rare occasion, but an important one to understand and use, because if you notice so far, the properties of these circles have no fill, but only a stroke of different color. When I outline the stroke, the opposite happens. The stroke becomes a fill. It becomes like a real ring, hollow, real ring with a fill and no stroke, basically. I'm not only reversing the properties, but I'm solidifying the rings. Let me press Command Y so you can see what the rings look like before and what the rings will look like after. Okay, so I'm selecting them right now. This is what they look like, because the stroke is like 5 points thick. So that's why but it's like the skeletal view. This is the outline or the skeletal view. This is what they look like. When I go to Object Path, Outline Stroke, look what they look like now. So the stroke became the actual fill, okay? And this is what it looks like. Now I can have the opportunity to do the overlapping segments in a proper way. So it's a nice little technique that Illustrator has built into the software. I'm sure they didn't build it for this particular reason, but it can handle things like this, which is called intertwining and stuff like that, no problem. Okay, there's few more steps left, and this what paves the way for me to cover the topic of the Pathfinder tool. Because so far I showed you, let me just put this away for a second. I'm gonna just resize it and put it here. I did do the MasterCard logo demonstration last Wednesday in person. So if I was to do the MasterCard logo, not to go away from our topic here, but I did start with this. I did have the orange fill and the MasterCard logo. Hey, Olympics sponsored by MasterCard. There you go. Although I think Visa does the main sponsoring for the Olympics. But let's say it's MasterCard. Option drag. Okay. Option drag holding shift. And this will be the orange part of the MasterCard, right? That's pretty easy enough. But if you notice, the original MasterCard logo does have another color in here, okay? I don't know if it's the real one here. I'm gonna go ahead and MasterCard logo. Right. So it's not just the 2 circles overlapping, but the overlapping segment is a different color. So, and this is the old one. Look at this one, has the stripes in there. If you want to really go back like maybe 20 years ago, right? But the new one is the one in the middle. So to achieve that result, we have to consider this overlapping segment of the 2 circles. So I'm going to explain to you how this Pathfinder tool can do lots of amazing things just by these 2 logos on top and bottom. So for that to happen, you need to understand to open up the Pathfinder, because without this powerful feature that was around in Illustrator ever since, oh man, even like I'm talking like 20 years ago, this feature was around. So if you open it up, and this is what it looks like, you can do all these amazing object integrated things. So in this case, for example, let's do, and I did show students some tutorials they can watch on YouTube or in the Adobe community. I'm going to have 2 sets here. I'm going to press Control D. So there's 2 sets of logos, right? With the first set, which means I have to select both circles together, I'm going to use the Pathfinder tool and use this very first option, which is called Unite. Unite means combine the objects together. So now if you look at them, they're actually became one. The other option, you can use Subtract or minus front. Minus front means it's like a cookie cutter approach to objects. It's going to cut from the top to the back. It's going to cut one shape out from the other by doing this, basically. Now you're going to say, well, how about if this was on top of that one? Well, if that's the case, then the same thing would happen, but the other way, right? Right? Like that. And if this was in the front, it'd be this way. Okay. So that's how that works. Those are the two most common, techniques I see on most of the logos, because a lot of them have a white and a dark format, and then you can have a colored format as well, right? Because all the logos have to look good on a sticker, let's say, right? So you have to have like a, monotone design or just black and white. All logos have to look good in black and white, and they also have to look good in color. So yeah, those are two conditions you have to meet when designing a logo. That's why simplicity is very important. With these two, I'm going to use this third one here. It's called intersect. So by utilizing all these methods, or this other one does that. Okay, so you can try different. The top four is the most popular, common used methods. I would argue the top two. These ones are not that much, but I will use this one today. This intersecting one is important because that one could play a key role to designing the logo. So I'm just going to back it up a few times here. Perhaps I'll delete this one. So here we go. Maybe I'll use this one here as well. So I'm going to use, well, I can do two things. I could have used this one to do the middle one to split that into the remaining circle and just kept these ones the way they are and just move this on the very top, right? Change the color of it to in between orange, zoom in a little bit, and basically align it like that. And then I have like the MasterCard logo done. And all it is a bunch of pieces put together. Okay. Another option is to divide it, which I'm going to give you a better example of the Olympic rings and how useful this feature could be. As you can see, this is the MasterCard logo, right? So I think the red looks a little darker, but that's fine. We can always, and then this is darker as well, right? It's getting too dark here. Anyways, um, I can easily go like this as well. Instead of using your default swatch libraries, you can double click on the color here and definitely go for that more reddish tone. See, it's already changing on me here. All right. So I could go the route of separating all these three instead of this, right? It's going to look like this now. You're going to select all these three. I'm going to use the divide pathfinder. This is one of my special favorite ones because it goes beyond intersecting, excluding, cutting, or pasting objects with one another, or the welding of shapes. This one separates the objects to a degree that they're overlapping or segmented in some way. So if I click on this feature now, okay, what you'll notice is nothing. It groups them automatically. What you have to do afterwards is right click and ungroup. Because when you perform an action like the Pathfinder, it solidifies the group of the objects, and you just have to remember to ungroup them if you want to do something further. If you don't, then that's fine. But if you want to ungroup them now, you'll see that this is also separate, this is separate, and this is separate, which is how I got my result that I did. Oh, some extras, some leftovers here. I'm going to delete them with the other logo, right? And we did a new little MasterCard logo design we're just messing with, right? So same thing can apply on the Olympic rings logo. Just going to leave this for now. Let's make it look like to put this right on, you have to be really careful before that's done. I'm going to use the arrow keys on the keyboard. Even that's not as incremental, but you could, I guess, eyeball it if you wish. You can go to turn on Command or Control Y to get really, really precise with the objects. Okay, like that. Then you can move it right to the actual line and stuff. And if it has like snapped object on, you can really, really nail it perfectly. So again, this is under View, Preview, or preview outline. I like to use the shortcut Control Y or Command Y. I know I'm throwing all these shortcuts at you, but I mean, better, now than later, because I want you to learn as much as you can. Do you have to remember all these shortcuts? Not really, but the more you know, the better with the software. I think these have a stroke as well. Anyhow, should have done a better job before, right? Right. Another way to do it is if you think this is because I moved it around, you don't want to do what I did. Otherwise, it's hard to put it back exactly. It's almost impossible. But you could do alignment options as well. Like you can select all these and just go like this is left, this is center, this is right. So you can use that kind of formatting if it's going to help you do it that way. Okay. In this case, maybe I think it's going to work. Maybe in the middle might work, just to align it perfectly center. Same as all these three can be aligned in the middle. Because if I go to the top, it's going to look like this. This is bottom and this is middle. So there's other ways you can use the shortcuts to align them. All right, back to the Olympic rings. This is where this feature is very powerful because you can actually go ahead and select these pieces and change their color to make it look like they're intertwining with one another. And the way that works is by simply selecting the one on top, which is this one. The blue one has the segmented areas because the green one obviously has not much there. So here's my method. Instead of ungrouping this, right, what I like to do is using the group selection tool. This is a special one because it lets you select objects inside the group. Okay, so you can use this one here. It's got the white arrow with the plus on it. You can go inside the group like this. Oh, I don't think I even divided this, to be honest with you. That's why it was separate. My apologies. I never performed the Pathfinder yet. Although it looks like I did, but it didn't because that's just a preview. What I have to do in addition to what I did earlier was convert the path into a stroke. I have to also do the same thing I did with the MasterCard is convert this divide effect. So again, not this one, right? Because that's not going to work unless you want to unite them together like this. Because before they were intertwining, now they're combined. Okay. So we don't want to do that. We definitely don't want to do this because it's going to cut out the ones from the top. What I want to do is basically divide them. Like this one here, divide. Only then I can go ahead and pick these parts out and make it look like the illusion that they're overlapping. So let's go ahead and do that. And my point was to not ungroup this because look what happened when I ungrouped it. You can really mess up the logo. So rather than ungrouping it, I'll show you how to edit a group in a group without ungrouping it, if that makes sense. I'm going to use this group selection tool. Okay, this is very special. Only these, you can use this all the time. It's just, you got to look for it. It's right down here because this selects objects in a group as opposed to the whole thing. So what I'm saying is you can go in here and grab this segment here, which is green, you see? Use the eyedropper and match it to look like it's blue. So now you can see how this is blue and this is green. It looks like they're overlapping one another. I'm going to hold Command or Control because that switches to the last selection tool. You can just click on the tool from here or there and then select the next segment, which is this one, and eyedrop that one to black, right? Perhaps I'll do the same thing over here and make this also black. So it's overlapping the yellow. And maybe select this one over here and make it yellow. Okay, so I do have a very nice way to have all these rings look like they're interlinked with one another. So again, no other way but Illustrator, you're able to do this wonderful, wonderful feature. Yeah, there's another filter I think in here that they came up with that does this faster, but I just can't think of it right now. I know it's in the edit menu there. It's kind of cool. But I want you to learn this because this is more practical and powerful to understand how the Pathfinder tool can do lots of important things. Maybe your logo is not going to be this complex. You don't have to ever worry about it, but this knowledge is important. This way you're not limited to what you can or can't do. Okay? All right, let's put this aside. I'm going to save this as the Olympic rings or slash Pathfinder logo. If you want to do this with me live, I can see you this Wednesday in class. And I'll be more than happy to go over this one again in case you missed a few points along the way. But that recording should have everything that I just showed you as well. All right, so moving on to the next batch of logos, I'm gonna tuck my Pathfinder palette nicely here. Hope your environment is the same as you left it last time. I was very adamant about you going here and working on your workspace and saving a workspace. And I think we went with Essentials Classic. That's the one you want to stick to in case you're not getting the same stuff and maybe you just got the new Creative Cloud license and software and you're trying to catch up to the class and you're a little behind. Just remember the workspace is very important because if you don't have your right setup, it's hard to follow me, perform all these things. So let's just quickly cover that again. Make sure you're in Essentials Classic. Okay, so everything looks the way it does. Okay, and also in addition to that, I went to the tool palette here. Look at my mouse cursor, and I made sure this was extended to 2 rows because it's so much easier to envision these important things like a stroke and fill and the viewpoints. Because if I was like this, it's very hard for me to point even, hey, let's go to this tool or that tool. It's just hard to manage that way, especially the bottom here. You can barely see what's happening. It's so small, depending on your screen size as well. I much more prefer this view because you can clearly see, look, you can just go and switch this up back and forth. So much easier to control it that way. Okay. All right, let's go back to our samples here that we have. This is just an integrated, letters with an object, very simple. I can demonstrate that with these two, the same kind of thing. The fonts that we used, okay, are important. So this was an actual font. Okay, now how do you get your fonts? I did cover this last class, okay, but I'll just review it one more time really quickly. Go to thefont.com. It's a free website. You can get any fonts you want. Thefont.com. All right. And if you want to go with, let's say, what do we go with? The games, sci-fi. You can pick all the sci-fi logos. Um, Sports. Okay. I think it's a digital one that I used. LCD. There's different ones you can get. Right. So let's say I want this logo here. It's kind of retro and it's gonna play with what I want to do. So to get logos, like any logos, like LED display, okay, this is actually kind of cool too. To download, you have to click on the right here. And once you download the logo, you simply double click on I meant the font. To install it, just double click on it or drag it to your font library in the properties panel in your PC or Mac. You simply have to extract the font like I'm going to do right now. And this is called LED display. So I'm going to double click on it. It's going to prompt me through the installation process here. Just hit install. And that's that. So just remember the name. It's called the LED display. And the LED display. So if I go back to Illustrator now, I want to create some kind of a logo with that font in mind. I'll just move these over here. Notice how this is still grouped, okay, because we're using this. I should group these as well. And I'm holding shift when I'm resizing the logos, right? Because if I don't hold shift, I'm guessing basically. You don't want to guess, okay? Guesses are not good. You don't want to guess because even if you guess, you think this is perfect, it's not perfect, right? So you can tell the circles are not perfect. So always, always hold shift when you resize, especially perfection of objects like squares, circles, rectangles, and things like that. Okay, let's try some wordmark logos, something similar to what you're designing for this assignment. Let's do in 2 days. I'm going to use the type tool and just type here, digital. This is a logo here that I'm going to incorporate. Digital something, okay? Digital something, that's my logo. I'm going to go to the fonts up here. Notice how when you click on the lettering, and by the way, again, I went over this last week. When you use the type tool, you want to just go click and type. Okay, that lets you do this. It treats it like a character. If you don't click and type, if you decide to click and drag to draw a text box, then you have a text box. Then this is treated differently. It goes like a text box, right? Whereas if you click once and type, it treats it like a character. So, make your decision up. You don't want to do this yet anyway, so don't click and drag until you put like contents, like maybe you want to put the business card's address, info, phone number, name, title, those kind of things. For now, just stick with click and just type the lettering because it's easier to control the font that way. All right, going back here. Notice how this changes based on my selection because I have a font selection. Look, all the font options came up. So I have the text box selected. When I click on the object, I have object options that show up. Same as this one here. These are objects. This is typography. So if you click on the typography, you have the typography options. Yeah, there's colors as well and stuff, but not as much as other things that I need. So let's go ahead and pick the font. I can pick from various fonts that I have here. Now, notice how it's changing. Let me move it over so you can see how it's changing while I'm picking the fonts this way, right? So that's one way to do it. Another way is to get a preview on the right side of what the font can actually look like. Fonts is always tricky because you really have to kind of pick the right ones to do the right thing. Okay. I'm going to go with the one I downloaded. Now, in the older days, you'll have to restart the software. As soon as you download any font, you have to I would have to restart Illustrator because otherwise it won't load properly. But I think with the new versions now, you don't have to do that. So I'm going to go the LCD. Oh, there we go. The LED, does LCD, the LED display. Okay. And there's the font that I was looking for. There's my LED font. Very good. I'll tuck this over here. All right. So this font is basically made up of really interesting pattern of objects, make it look more digital like that, which is great. And of course, I can go digital. Digital hub, digital corner, digital corner. Okay, digital corner. We're producing digital creative services for businesses on a maybe main intersection, and our business is called Digital Corner. Okay, so that's kind of be maybe interesting and cool. I'm gonna pick a different color for this one here. I'll be like an orange. This can be like a green. I always associate green with anything digital, and this is something that we can use as a logo. We can also do some substitutes of fonts and options and logos and things like that. So for example, this one here, I might separate the two like this and perhaps draw another object, like a rectangle perhaps. And I can draw a rectangle the same size as this here. Change the color of it. I'll pick a really different color so I can identify what it looks like. And not only that, I should send this to the back or bring this to the front. So I'm going to go ahead and do the latter. Let's just send this to the back. Um, Arrange, send to back. Remember the shortcuts I shared with you earlier? Command, the square brackets. Arranging is so common in Illustrator that I do encourage you to use the more popular shortcuts. This is why I'm introducing them to you already. So send to back, okay? Bring to front. These are all important things. So I'm gonna do this just to trap these letters into my rectangular area design, like that. I can always resize it later, no problem. I can even center these two perfectly. Even centering doesn't work because the way the type is set up. Maybe if I have it centered perhaps as a paragraph itself, it might center better now. Sometimes using a center line, like I know it's not a paragraph, but just within itself, it's centered, left aligned or right aligned. It makes a small little difference in your alignment options. And if it doesn't, you just have to manually kind of do it. Okay, just make sure the space is equal here as the space is equal over here. Okay, and how do you really do that? Well, you can use margins, guides, rulers. Okay, you can press command, apostrophe, or open up the guides that way. One really interesting method I like to use is the old school method. I'm just going to show you how to use a very cool little cookie cutting technique, because sometimes even the program's advanced features doesn't really get it perfect. So if I do this, okay, I can see how this is now exactly lined up, which means if I move it to the other side, it should be the same thing. So it's a little off, as you can see. Okay. So I'm just going to grab this now and just resize it slightly. You don't have to get this precise, but if the time comes for you to do so, you can. I've done it many times with different things. This one, I'm going to move it a little closer. So it's going to be like this. Make sure the bottom's the same. Almost. Transform it and stuff too. Okay, anyhow, you get the idea. You can use the dummy objects, or you can just use parameters like guides, rulers, and other things. All right, time to convert this to a logo now, because it's just a bunch of text at this point. What I wanted to do was do some Pathfinder effects. First, I have to convert this and this into a object. So remember, this is right now it's text. To convert these into objects, which solidifies the logo, is you have to do what's called type, create outlines. This is such a powerful and important command that I even mentioned it in the assignments criteria. So I do want you to practice this, because there's nothing worse than you giving me this file and I don't have the font and have to look for the font to open the actual WordMark logo. If you look at the actual assignments criteria, I mentioned this right here. Type to create outlines is the main key. So this is the main thing. I even kind of put an asterisk there just so you can keep an eye on it. This is exactly what I'm showing you now. So basically converting, this and this, or just one at a time. You go to type, create outlines. What happens is when you create outlines now, these objects or the type that you see was all converted into objects, right? These are all little objects now. So you can do so many interesting things. You can literally go ahead and, delete some of these little circles or squares or do lots of cool little things like that. I'm going to select these two things here and go to the Pathfinder and do maybe minus front. So it's like I'm punching a hole through this. You see, it's like the little holes got punched in to that little design that I had. Okay. So that was my motive from the beginning here, because I was thinking about doing that and demonstrating this effect here. I'm going to align these perfectly. Okay. And maybe shorten it up just a little bit. That's okay. And go just perfectly align left, right, center, right? You can do all that. And then you can then, of course, even separate this here. Oh, yeah, there we go. So I could go ahead and, oh, I did it earlier. Right. You can go ahead and select on some of these little, let's say you want to delete that one, or you want to delete this one, or randomly delete a few to make it look more like nostalgic, like the lights are out. Okay. Or you can just even delete, maybe make it a certain color, right? So perhaps you want to go ahead and Let me ungroup this one in this case. So if I ungroup it now, this becomes also a separate letter. This might even match the color of this blue here, for example. So I do have a, digital, you know, corner, right, whatever. So you can do lots of interesting things using wordmark logos and objects together to make wonderful things. And then when I'm done, I'm just going to select all this and right click and group it together. So just hit group, ungroup, group, regroup, right? I like to use Control or Command G. Okay. Um, I don't see group here. I'm just gonna press Command G. Object group. There we go. Group Command G. All right. So lots of the demonstrations that I have here as the example, if you download, it just mirrors these effects. I want you to be able to do different styles of logos that are available to you, and maybe anything you can think of. I know last week we went a little creative with the design and kept it simple, but also I showed you the pen tool. Look, I'll show you the pen tool this Wednesday in person. So please come to class this Wednesday. I'll show you the wonderful work of the pen tool. Maybe today I'll dabble with it a little bit, but I do have a specific exercise for that. So maybe I'll save it even for like next week. I want you to stay away from the pen tool if possible for this one, because to learn the pen tool, we need more practice and you need more lessons to do it properly. Okay. Um, where was my folder here now? Gotta go back and open this again. All right, here we go. Class number 2. Um, no, never mind. I downloaded it. That's what I did. There we go. Okay. So whether you do this one or that one, I did a similar effect right now with that digital corner logo. I kind of amalgamated both of these into one. All right. And this is the same thing. Okay. Just to kind of punch hole through this one with the background, leave this with no background. Okay. It's called the block type with the channel lettering and things like that. This one I did last week, the S and the D, just connecting the two together. These are actually separate letters overlapping each other. So that one is quite simple to do. You just have to literally put two letters together. Let's say you type, well, now it's giving me the same font as before. Let's do LA, okay? Right, so these can become like a logo like that if you prefer, right? You just have to merge the two together. But this font doesn't justify what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to change the font to something more basic and simple. Let's say I go with even a serif font or a sans serif font. You can definitely do some interesting things with the logo this way. Okay, so let's say I go with something like that, and I want to make this into a logo. Well, again, here's the protocol. First, you create outlines. Okay, so type create outlines. So now it becomes like that, right? And then you use the Pathfinder panel to, there it is right here, to combine. So it becomes one interesting piece of artwork. Okay, this is how we can do most of these logos. And then pick any color of your choice. Even a gradient will work because they're united together at this point, right? So you can do a gradient. I don't like gradients on logos. I think it's like over the top. Most professional logos do not have gradients. They all have solid colors. So please keep that in mind. All these logos should look good in black and white or, color. Okay. So make sure you keep that in mind as well. All right. So I'll just go with this color for now. All right. What's the other example here? Now, this is when you get to really, really, well, this is like the triple outline stroke, like a sports logo or something, and this is the transformed option. So I guess I can show you this as well, okay, so you can understand how we did that one. Let me pause for a second in case you do have some questions. I would like to, maybe go over some of these things again. Perhaps some of you are following me live and watching me do this and trying to do it with me at the same time. So please, if you have any questions at this point, ask me. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep continuing and and recording this session of designing different logos and ideas. Perhaps you might have a logo you want to show me and say, "Hey, how do you do this kind of design?" And I can try to do it. I can pretty much do most things out there that I can see. I can replicate, but then again, from the creative aspect, it's all about how you envision it to begin with. All right, let's see. I saw yes, Trust. How are you, Trust? How you doing?
I'm good. Good morning, sir.
Hmm.
How are you?
I'm good. Good. Just, enjoying the nice weather while we have it here on a beautiful fall day, Monday. So got to keep it
Yeah.
going. Yeah.
So I've been having an issue trying to purchase the Adobe CC software. My credit and debit cards it's not working. The payment API or the payment link doesn't work for me.
Yeah. Let's talk about this after class, okay? Because it's not related to what I'm showing people here. But I'll tell you one thing, just to not brush you off. Use your Humber credentials. You have to use the Humber Mail. I think it's Humber Mail, literally Humber Mail. I think from what I learned from one student last week, you have to use humbermail.com and then make sure you contact the IT support. They should be able to help you with this too. Okay. Because there's nothing I can do really on my end except to tell you what I'm telling you now. So make sure you not when you log in, if it's your Gmail or Hotmail, maybe you had cloud before, it might conflict with your previous credentials. So do make sure you use your Humber Mail email, like literally, in this case, maybe trust at humbermail.com, right? Or .ca actually. So try that, Trust, and let's hope that works. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, and we can talk after class if you want. If it doesn't work again, I'll see if we can figure something out. Anybody else have any other questions? And I prefer you ask me questions with this, guys, because we're doing the exercise now. The membership thing, we should have it sorted out. I know some of you guys have situations. That's fine. I like to help everybody as much as they can, but sometimes there's so much I can do as opposed to the IT department that runs these, programs and platforms. And in this case, it's Humber on the Hub. So please look after that, okay? All right. So no other questions, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and see the other one here. Got the maps open up. All kind of windows opening up. Right. So these are the more complex logos. This is called a triple stroke, and I'll do a type on a path. So it's fairly easy to execute something like this. So if you do want to do a sporting logo or some kind of a logo that deals with sports and recreation, okay, we can do something like that. Um, we're gonna go ahead and do that one right now. So to do a double stroke, I prefer to do a number. Like you see, a lot of these.
Hi, Milo.
Oh, hi.
Your screen is not shared. Please, can you share
Okay. Yeah. Let's see here. When did it not share? Just now, right? How long was my screen not sharing for? Don't tell me it did that from the. No, it didn't because I saw the sharing thing. You would have said something if it wasn't sharing before, right? Yeah. There.
Yeah, it was just now. Don't worry.
Okay. All right. Because I have to do the whole recording all over again then. I'll have to do some kind of improvising. All right. Thanks for letting me know. Can you see it now? Okay. It's all good.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna do the next one now. This is the double stroke method. A lot of sporting goods, athletes, logos, even with letters, I've seen it done. So to execute that, it's quite simple. You have to pick a nice, heavy font to begin with. Um, I can actually do it on this one too, on the LA, but I'll do another one just for the keep it different. Rumble. Now for this, you got to pick a heavy typeset. So for me to go to Times Bold, it might work. Even like a block type is better than a sans serif font. So I'm gonna pick a really, really, even this one might work. Okay. So let's say I go with a Rumble. right? I'm going to give this a stroke now. Okay, so watch carefully how I do this. I'm going to go up here and give this a black fill with a red stroke. Okay, so I'm just going to pick something. Oops. I think I had a little bit of a glitch happen to my software. There, now it's working for some reason. And I picked the red stroke because you can see how some of these fonts, they don't work out too well. They overlap like this. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You have to pick the right fonts to make this happen. A lot of times you have to go maybe make the stroke thicker like this, right? And maybe make it 1 point. And then you have to do, watch this one, copy and paste. Of another copy of the same logo, basically copy and paste itself. What I'm going to do now is turn it into a different color, like white, for example, in this case, like a white stroke. Instead of point or 1 point, I'll do half a point. So it's a thinner font than this one. And if you overlap it exactly, you'll get this double stroke type of effect to look. But before that, we should convert this into outlines and then try the effect. So let's back it up a few steps. So no stroke first. Type, create outlines. Okay. And then I'm going to go Pathfinder Unite. So now it doesn't look like it's overlapping. See, it's all connected. Because before it was giving me these overlaps and it because conflicting with my strokes and fills and stuff. So as I did the Pathfinder Unite, it united everything together. Basically, it welds the objects together nicely. So this now can become my my next step going forward. I'm going to go ahead and give it a stroke. I guess we'll stick with that red. It interferes a little bit, but not that much. Maybe I'll make it 1.5. I'll just type this in manually, 1.5. Now think of the logic here. I have a heavy red stroke with a black fill of 1.5. If I do copy and paste or just option drag, if I make this stroke now, let's say like yellow or orange, okay, and I make the stroke smaller, maybe like 0.5, what you'll notice is this now overlapping the original, and you'll get this double stroke effect. Now I'll have to align these perfectly. So I'm going to go perfect align vertical, perfect line horizontal, and this is the kind of stroke effect you want to get. A lot of like jerseys, numbers, they use the same effect to achieve this result. Okay, so it's basically overlapping this on top of the one in the back with a thinner outline. So the thicker one's in the back, the thinner one is at the front. And even can change it to even like that one too, right? So if I go ahead and group these now, this will be all together, right? All right, the other one is, well, has got the type on a path. Type on a path is basically you can put a circle or any shape for that matter and make this thing go around. For that one, I can do, let me just do an arc here. A lot of arcs happen on some logos. You can have like a circle like this, like a ellipse, actually, not a circle, an elliptical shape. And if you go with the text tool, it's called type on a path tool, but the text tool will work as well. You just have to be careful where you click and how you execute this. But if I go to type on a path, and if I click at the very, very top corner of the circle, what I'm doing is typing text on that path. So this text will follow the path of this object. Okay. And then with this arrow tool, whether it's the white or the black arrow, you can literally control how this is kind of situated and angled from the path. Okay, so you can literally grab these little handles here and control it. This is really daunting and tricky, so please be patient. It's not easy to do, but if you have to do type on a path, by all means, this is how you can execute that. Okay. And of course, then the font might change. I don't think the script font justified this effect here. So maybe we'll go with, you know, Myriad, something very simple here, right? Right. So whichever font you decide to use, that's fine. This is how this might work with your path. Okay. Now you can also do this, which is kind of cool. You can really control the path, right? What I prefer to do is use the white arrow tool for that, the direct selection tool. This lets you edit the actual path. So you can literally do things like this, which is a little more kind of construed and proper, whereas you don't want to distort the actual design, right? So this is your text and that's your path. And you can do circles, squares, any shapes that you see fit, okay? All right. Let's make this card a little bigger. I'm running out of space. This is my digital artboard. I'm not really doing a business card anymore. I gave up that idea. So I'm going to use the artboard tool, which is located right here. I think you guys are using like Figma or maybe Adobe XD with the UX class in Felice. And I'm sure you're designing artboards to put your work in there. Illustrator is very good at making artboards. So you can literally go to the artboard tool and simply extend the artboard's dimensions at any given time. And it's right here, the artboard tool. Please remember that. Yes, you can make additional artboards as well. You simply have to click and drag and make as many artboards as you like. You can control the actual size of the artboard here. This is your position, X and Y. This is your width. This is your height. In case I want to do make a vertical and a horizontal business card, I'm going to go 3.5 by 2. Okay. And this one will be also 3.5 by 3. You control whatever sizes you want. And to delete them, you simply select and delete the actual artboards. Okay. The other one I wanted to show you was this was the shadow effect. This is could be used in different scenarios with logo designing. When you have a reflection of some sort, or in this case, the shadow effect, which looks like this here, up to the top right corner. So for that one, you need to use a few transform techniques of the program. These logos, the intention for me to show you all these different variations is to teach you all the tools that Illustrator has to offer. I can't possibly teach you everything that's there, but I'll teach you some of the most advanced, common, practical, popular methods that professionals use. And that's what I'm doing with this demonstration. All right. But there's so many, you can do 10 different ways of doing this and 10 different ways of doing that. 10 different, if I show you all 10 methods, I'm going to waste a lot of time and I wouldn't even get this far if I was to do that. I'll show you the most best, efficient, practical way to get this done, which makes sense. Why go through all the options that are kind of pointless sometimes? All right, let's do the next one. So for this one, I'm going to ask you to use the type tool, click anywhere, type the word shadow, because that's going to be the next effect that we're going to make. I'm going to pick a nice bold typeface. The boldest typeface you can pick from the library here is called Impact. Everybody has Impact on their font option here, Macs or PCs. And Impact is a very popular font because it's has quite the impact, if you know what I mean, with the way it's presented. Okay, so it's going to be the font we're going to choose is going to be called Impact. There it is. I'm going to make the artboard a little larger here. We need room for the base. Okay, so here's we typed the words all capitals, okay, capital letters, because then we can actually go ahead and do some more practical stuff with it. Okay, so all caps. If you press now, it looks, notice how everything is outlined, and this is not. It's still editable text, right? But once you convert it into an object, you can no longer edit the font and stuff. So let's go ahead and do that. So type, create outlines. Again, the very popular common step in converting the typography or wordmark logos. So create outlines, and now you can see this is created into outlines, right? And I'm pressing Command or Control Y to exit back and forth from my digital environment. The next step is to flip this. I want to flip this as a replica underneath itself. So you can do several ways. You can option drag shift. Okay. Some people do this. They grab the top and the bottom. They do what's called a crossover. And then they just move this back up to the top, right? But if you do this, you're guessing. You're not making it even exactly. So I don't recommend doing this, although people do pull it off from time to time. What I do prefer you do is you go to the object, transform, and you can do what's called a reflect. Think of reflection. You can do horizontal or vertical reflection. So if you do hit the reflect command, see, flick by default, it's giving you a preview, right, of what it looks like. I'm flipping it on the vertical axis, it flips it horizontally. On the horizontal axis, it flips it vertically. Do you follow me? Horizontal axis does a vertical flip. The vertical axis does a horizontal flip. I used to get this mixed up all the time. The other main thing is for you to hit a copy. You want to copy this. You want to copy a duplicate of the current state to a horizontal flip, giving you a vertical result. So just do basically this and this, hit the copy button, and then move this one down underneath it so it's perfectly aligned with the original. Okay. And the reason why we're doing this is because now you can insert a gradient fill as opposed to a solid fill on the logo. I didn't cover gradients yet in great depth, maybe a simple here and there, but gradients are another good way to incorporate on effects like this. Not necessarily logos, but an effect like this does require a gradient. Now the default I'm getting here is orange and a red gradient. So I'm just gonna go to where's my default black and white gradients? You probably, by default, yours should be black and white, okay? Because that's what the default is. I'm going to go to my gradients here. Anyways, I'll just maybe make it default myself. I'm going to hold shift up and down. You can control the gradient many ways here. It's giving me every letter. So let me do this. Let me use another Pathfinder. I'm going to join this into one shape. So then the gradient will oblige to one direction as opposed to separate ones. So back to the gradient I go. And then do that. Oh, it's still separating it. Okay. If it keeps doing this, because it is separate letters and stuff, Pathfinder can only go so far. I'll show you one more trick you can do to unite these into one object. You got to go to Object, Compound Path Make. This is advanced, but in a simple way to explain it, it basically makes the object a compound path. So it makes it the same thing. So you can put you can do more advanced features within combining multiple things because these are not touching. You see, they're all set. If this was overlapping, it'll work. Pathfinder will do the job, but these are not touching at all. They're not overlapping. So I have to go a step further and make a compound path for my gradient to basically work to the way I want it to work. So now I can just do one instead of every single one. Okay. Just remember that. Not a big deal, but it does get a little complicated. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and double click on this one here. Okay. And I'll make it black. Yours should be already fine. So if it's not, you can do what I did. This one I'll delete. How do you delete a color swatch? You drag it away. Look, drag left or drag right, and then they disappear. You can't drag this one because there's only minimum of two, from and to. So black to, double click, white. Okay, so now I have this diminishing shadow effect. I'll make it even better. Using the gradient tool again, I'm going to go from here, like maybe a little deeper, all the way out like that. Okay, so it's about the direction and stuff that you're sending it to and from. If you hold shift, you keep it constrained vertically. If you don't hold shift, there's the gradient tool, by the way. You can go this way, that way, that way. You can go any way you want. But I went exactly from here, from the baseline to the outside of the baseline. So from top to bottom, I made it black to white. Okay, so the next thing is, I think you can leave it here and say, okay, I like that. That's the result I'm looking for. But this one has an added effect that it's covering, which is the tilt, okay, the skew and the shear. This one requires some further effects. So not just scaling. This is called skewing, okay? So first we'll grab the shadow here, the bottom portion of it. I'm going to introduce you to a very powerful tool called shear or skew. We used to call it skew or shear. It's right here, shear tool. The way it works is by default, your shearing starts from the center. You want to relocate this at the base where they meet. The base
Professor, you're on mute.
go on mute right now or before?
Just a few seconds ago.
It's the weirdest thing, eh? The computer's got a mind of its own, I tell you. Well, thank you for letting me know. All right. I appreciate it. See, look, I need you guys to help me here because I can only do so much and not see what's happening on your end. So thank you for your input. Okay, you can all see me now and stuff and hear me okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So let's get back to business here. We're going to go to the so what I was doing here with this with the shadow effect, not only was the gradient applicable, but the actual shear or skew effect. The tool is right here under the scale tool. And you don't have to use the scale tool to scale unless you want to, let's say you do want to scale. It's put in like a thumbtack or a nail here, and then grab the corner and you scale it to that area. You see, it's kind of nice and controlling that way. Same as skew or shear. You want to put it in the middle. The middle is right here, right? You don't want to click anywhere but the middle to establish that point of reference. When you do that, you can grab the bottom and you can hold shift to control it perfectly horizontally, left or right. If you don't hold shift, even if you do hold shift, you're not careful with the mouse, this can happen easily. So be careful. You want to look, I can't put it back in control now. From the get-go, you want to be able to hold shift. You want to click here, hold shift, and gently go left or right to a small degree. As soon as you let go, it should be done. This takes practice. So again, Wednesday, I'll go over some of the stuff in person when you guys show up in class. I'll be more than happy to go over this with you. I'm going to select both of these now. I'm going to group them and maybe execute this shear tool again. This time I'll click up here and just drag this bottom and maybe go do one of these. It's kind of giving me that 3D look, right? So it's more natural. So I'm going to go with this here like that. So not only I was able to do it horizontally constrained, but even vertically with the feature that I have available. So again, if you're doing some kind of a title for a movie or a production, or look, I saw like a movie yesterday, and then there was all kinds of you see all the movies now, credits, titles, logos. It's like a thing. Everyone has to have some kind of a representation. So you'll be designing digital logos, not just for print, but for many, many other things as well. All right, so this is what's the logo, kind of the leftover advanced or beginner slash intermediate and advanced on how to design more complex, more creative ideas of logos. And I mean, if there's something else, it's probably drawing. Okay, and drawing is another topic I'll cover next week in detail because that's a separate class by itself, and that involves the pen tool. So this one I teased you a bit last week because I wanted to kind of be aware of it because with this one you can draw pretty much anything. Okay, and you can make a logo out of drawing, whatever. Okay, But if you work with the more professional logos that are out there, a lot of them don't use drawing. They use letters. Okay, they use typography. They use objects of design, elements, and that's how they make the logos, right? And let's remind us of what's out there with these more popular logos, right? You can see all of them, except the Nike one with the swoosh. All these are, well, Starbucks is drawn too, but some of the watermark logos, it's a lot of simple shapes. Maybe some drawing methods, like the exception of Nike and Starbucks. I mean, the other ones are just fonts. Okay, even Amazon, the little swoosh on the bottom. The McDonald's logo, maybe the arch needs to be drawn. The Apple logo, so maybe there are a few that requires drawing. Hey, here's some other ones here, right? And you can draw like even basic shapes to make these logos, whether it's the target or, but that's why the pen tool is good to know, which I'm going to do, teach you how to draw the pen tool. Right now, I don't expect you to use the pen tool, so do something simple to achieve something like this, and that's fine. All right. So speaking of drawing, before we learn that, let's learn how to work with advanced shapes and objects, which presents the next exercise. Now, if I don't finish the next exercise on time, because I do want to kind of have you, you know, kind of practice this one first, I'm going to do it one shot. I will cover this on Wednesday. This Wednesday's class, if you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to cover some of the more fundamental parts of this exercise. So going forward, let's just save this and continue to the next one. This is advanced logos. Okay. Save. Let's say you are to create a logo that looks like this. Android logo, right? We all know the Android logo. And the Apple logo is another one we can do the following week. That's drawing it basically with the pen tool. But the Android logo looks like that. So how would you recreate a logo like this? So what you would have to do is basically get a source. Maybe you have it drawn on a piece of paper. Maybe you have it sketched somewhere. Either way, you have to digitally transfer the design on the computer. So you can right click, copy the image, or save the image to your computer, because it could be like a piece of drawing or something. Let's pretend that's the case. To the desktop, Android logo to trace. Tracing means we're reproducing the logo. A lot of times this happens in a creative environment. I remember my job when I first started doing graphic design. My job was to just do logos for this company to make pins. And some of them were Walmart and some other stores, and I had to recreate these logos. I'll show you some Walmart pins. Walmart pins this was like, honestly, guys, like 20 years ago. But these pins, somebody had to recreate these logos, okay? And I took some of these actually. I don't know if I recognize any of my ones, but I did quite a few of these myself. These are pins that we had to make for Walmart and other clients like sports teams and stuff. So these pins required work, tracing and reproducing. Same stuff I'm showing you right now, okay? So I already have a prepared exercise called the Android logo. If you open that up, you can follow me, but you can also learn how to do it from scratch, which I can show you now. So let me show you that now, and then I'll just double click this to show you how it's set up. So it's easier for you. And let's double click to see what this looks like. Yeah, so this is already prepared for you. Prepared means you have the layers. You have the Android logo here. You have layer 2 ready to trace. Okay, that's what that means. Before I do that, I want to show you how I made that. So here's a picture that you might get on the internet and say, I want to make this logo. How do I do it? Okay. So you can get anything, even a drawing online, whatever. Save it as a picture, PNG, JPEG, any format works. Go to Illustrator, set up your artboard. So let's go to new. I'll set up an artboard. This one, I'll make it in pixels. Okay. So let's measure in pixels. We're going to do 800 pixels by 800 pixels. Okay. And it's going to be RGB color mode. So it's not for print, basically. It's going to go on a mobile device or other digital devices. So this is the artboard here that we're making for the logo. And when you do stuff like this, 800,000, these are the pixels you want. Don't do like 100 pixels. That's really small. Anything above 500-600 pixels, it's good. I know it doesn't matter with Illustrator, but you still want to have a visual kind of view of what it looks like. At least a decent view at that. Okay, so let's start. So I want to redo this logo here. So what I have to do is bring it in. You can drag and drop. Yes, that works. Okay. You can drag and drop. You can also go to File, Place. From Illustrator, you go File, Place. You go to the desktop. You click on the logo. What you don't want to do is make sure this link is on. Please make sure you check off the link. If the link is on, it's going to link it externally like a website linking images that if they're broken, it won't work. So basically turn this off and you'll have less headaches. Okay. Trust me. So hit place and simply go ahead and click and drag the mouse to the desired size that you're looking for. Maybe again, I'll do click and drag, right? So I want to make it nice and big so I can follow it, maybe a little smaller like that. Again, this is like me tracing. I don't know if you've done this. When I was a lot younger, I used to trace like comic book superheroes on paper and put a tracing paper on my window, tape the window with tape, put another transparent sheet of paper on top of that paper and trace it by hand using a pencil, right? I'm you copying the same type of motive here or the same technique on a digital environment. Hence, this is why we're doing digital drawing techniques. So for that to work, I have to tape this onto the window. Let's say this is my window. I'm going to open up the layers here and basically double click on this layer. Double click on the layer. I'm going to call this tracing or just templates. Templates. Now, because it's a template, Illustrator has a few important key features for you to make it like a real template by checking on the template box. That's all you have to do. Once you check the template box, it automatically does these other attributes like lock, show, preview, dim the image to 50%. So it's like semi-transparent. So it's like a watermark, which is good because then not only this is, look, I can't even touch it now, move it, nothing, it's locked. It's what you want. This is italicized. That's how you make a template in Illustrator. So then what you do is you make another layer from here, create a new layer, and on layer 2 is where where the fun happens. That's when you trace the layer. So you're gonna go ahead and draw like a circle or a shape, and trace this. Press D for default. Take up the white fill. This is where the fun happens on layer 2. Now I have this all set up for you, ready to go, so you don't have to do this step. We can skip it and get right to it, just to speed things up and to kind of make you better equipped and acquainted with how this works. Okay, so I'm not going to save this. This is just for me to show you how to get to this point that I'm going to open next. So I'm going to close this file, don't save. And now that I showed you how I did it, you can just open this file going forward. This file you can download from Blackboard under your Android logo part. Okay, so if you go to your class 3, which is today's lesson, Android logo. So today's lesson, again, I want to reiterate, I did do a little review because I couldn't cover everything in one class. I dabbled with this exercise folder from last week, and this week we're doing the logo as well. It's part of the same thing, okay? That's where you can find this file. Just download it from here, and you're going to be able to reproduce it using Illustrator. So lo and behold, let's open it up. This is the file, double click, and you should open everything. Look, it's set up for you. This is your layer 2. This is the drawing layer. Everything that I have here is what I just showed you how it's done. So you can just kind of pick up the pace by doing this. Layer 2 is where the action is, okay? I'm going to close the layers palette. The layers palette is located under the layers palette here, layers. You can open it and close it. Now we're going to recreate this logo using nothing but the skill set we already possess, which is working with objects, colors, and the Pathfinder tool, and some transformational effects. So feel free to do this with me now, or just watch me and try it later. Either way, you'll be able to recreate any logo that you see fit. Most logos. I'm gonna first analyze what I have here. I have a lot of different shapes here with this design. Even this here looks like a rounded rectangle with circles. If I had like an older version of Illustrator without the Pathfinder tool, I would literally do, you know, like do the circles like this, right? Like I would make like two of them, right? Option drag. Then I would make like a rectangle object. Don't do this, by the way. I'm just showing you, right? And I would make it all the same width, and then I would select all these I would select all these three shapes and go, you guessed it, yeah, Pathfinder, Unite, right? Like that. But then sometimes this happens, right? So it's really imperfect when you do that. So those days are gone. We don't have to do any of the old traditional, you know, cut and paste join methods and stuff. What you can do now is very simple. You can do a rectangle, just a rectangle like this. You start from this is X, this is X, this is Y, okay? So where this meets is right here. Watch this. Just a simple rectangle. I can't see through it because the white fill is preventing me in doing so. So I'm going to go up here and take the fill to none. Just like the Olympic rings, we have a see-through object with a black border. So this has a black border, but there's nothing through it. You see, you can't see through it, which is good. So we simply do this, and we trap this perfectly to the acquired target. Okay. Once that's done, with this new feature that came out in 2016, what you can do now is basically click up here in these little 4 round options and simply go ahead and round that right to the very inward position. And that's how you get this to look like that. So simple rectangle that traps the image that we're tracing, and rounding the corners gives you the exact replica of what we're trying to make. Let's do it again here. Well, you don't have to really do it again. You simply go, and be careful when you move it. You can't grab it here because you can only grab it from the edge because it's an outline. So Option, drag, Shift, and there's your copy there. Okay. Option, drag, Shift. Option, drag, Shift. Right? Command Y. Let's give these some color, okay? So I'm going to select all 4, use the eyedropper. Remember, this one samples color. And I'm going to go ahead and pick this green color and have them all green, right? And go to the selection tool and deselect them. And I don't know, I haven't been mentioning this a lot today because I'm saying so many other things. You always have to be in a selection tool no matter what. So please make sure that's the case when you do this part. Okay. This other one is a little tricky, so I'm going to teach you that one next. So that one, here's another rectangle. Draw another rectangle. I'm going to convert it to outlines by simply switching this little button here so you can kind of see right through it. Okay. And this one has only the bottom parts around it, not the top corners around it. So how am I going to basically target only these two to round? Because if I do this, look, everything rounds, right? I only want these two. So for that to happen, let me just press D and take off just so you can see it better, right? So I only want these two to round. For that to happen, you have to select only these corners. Because if you click on the object, it selects the whole object. I want to only select these corners, and no better way than the white arrow tool. See, look, the difference is the black one is the main selection tool, but the white arrow is your subsidiary tool, like your second option tool. So if you click on this corner here, basically you can modify this object just by doing that. But if you hold Shift and you click on the other corner, now you got both corners selected. But if you do the same thing, you select the two and you go to the little circles here, you only get to round those 2 circles. Same thing if you click on only this corner, you get to only round that corner. Get it? So if you multi-select, you can do 2 at the same time or 1 at the same time. I'm going to go and select the black selection tool eyedropper, and simply match the color. And now I have basically most of these things drawn by using very simple techniques that you already kind of know how to do, or I've explained them, but this is in a different way of approaching it. Okay, so this is something I want you to know as well. Now, of course, we haven't done the Pathfinder yet, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to select these three and just unite them because right now they're separate. Let's hit the Pathfinder tool so they're all connected as a logo should. Okay. This next part is a little tricky, but this is how you're going to learn to do more, I guess, tedious, advanced drawing type of techniques and approach it differently. So for this one, it's like an oval shape. So for that, I'm going to use the ellipse tool, right? And if you see, it starts here and there. So I'm going to introduce you to rulers, Command R, rulers under view. You can go to show rulers or hide rulers. Just remember Command R because it works in almost every creative application. R is for rulers, which means I'm going to draw, see this ruler here and the ruler there. That's in pixels, 650, 700, 750 pixels. I'm going to click on the ruler here and drag a guide this way. I'm going to go to the left ruler, see 220, 300, 350. I'm going to click there and drag another guide over here. The reason why I'm dragging guides is for accuracy and to know where to start drawing my circle from. This is where the intersection lies on the X and Y coordinate. Now, with experience, I don't have to draw these rulers. I can kind of know what the cursor's here. I know it captures this and it captures that. So if I click here and then draw the mouse, you are going to get a pretty close enough circle to cover that area. If I press Command Y, you can see what I'm talking about. Let me press D for D. D is always default, right? I'm going to take off the white fill so you have like a black stroke basically. Now these guides are interfering with my work, so I'm going to go to View Guides, and I'm just going to go to clear guides. I don't need them anymore. I can also hide them and stuff. All right, so this is what I got here, and now what I need to do is basically cut this right out. So you can use the same Pathfinder technique. Okay. You can draw another, object like a rectangle, like that. Doesn't matter how big this rectangle is, right? This rectangle can be, yellow, orange. This can be, blue, doesn't matter, right? The point is you cut this one from that one using the Pathfinder tools. Here's the Pathfinder tool, second one, minus front, and that's how you get the object. Eyedropper, match the same color property, and this is how you get the helmet to work. Okay, so that works as well quite nicely. The little dots or the eyes in there, that's just little circles that it's off a little bit. Can you see here? We kind of just gonna stretch it up down a bit, no problem. So these little circles, by the way, I'm pressing Command Y repeatedly to see what's through my template because I can't see through it. And the reason why it's showing as a ghosted pattern watermark background is because the template, if you remember in the beginning, I turn it into a template. If you turn off the template, let me show you something. You won't see anything. You only see this. So it's hard to see what you're working on if you don't know how to convert a proper template on the tracing layer, you see? So now when you press Command Y, you can see right through it. You can see all the details that you need to capture to make this happen. So here we go with the circles now. I'm going to use the elliptical tool. Now I'm going to hold Option to center out a circle. So Option click makes you draw a circle from the center out. I'm also going to hold Shift at the same time. So I get a nice perfect circle like this. I'm going to change the color of it to something else. And I'm going to hold Option, center, drag all the way to the other side and press Command Y. Right? Now we're not going to make the angry Android logo. We're going to select both of these and this together, the helmet or the head with the two eyes, back to the Pathfinder, minus front. Okay? And that basically produced this. See, it punched a hole right through the eyes. Okay, so it's like see-through, right? And that's what you want to achieve a proper professional logo effect. Okay. And last, we have the antennae. These are the little things sticking out of the head. This one also requires a little bit of work, believe it or not. I'm going to show you how to use the line tool. Very important. We're going to go and click and drag the line tool, just as long as it passes the head area. We're going to press D for default. We're also going to go to the eyedropper and maybe pick the green as the default, but we're going to switch it to the stroke. Switch it to the stroke and make it thicker, 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 like that. And you can see how this is now becoming the thick stroke. But the top of it is flat, where it's supposedly should be round. So this is where you're going to learn how to control different stroke variables. The stroke variables are located under here. This is where the stroke is. Look, there's the weight, 10 points, 10 points. So you can do it up here or over here. This one gives you more options. The cap is what we want to change. Instead of it to be a butt cap, we want it to be a round cap. So it's round as opposed to square, right? This one just extends it on the outside. So these are the most common ones here, especially the middle one. And this gives you a nice rounded cap as opposed to if it's square versus rounds. And that's more suitable for this effects. Now, also, I want to make sure this is part of this. This is a stroke. This is a fill. So to make this part of the logo, I should do what I did earlier with the Olympic rings logo. I didn't think I'd do it again, but this is another opportunity. You go to Object Path, Outline Stroke. This converts the stroke into a fill object. This is a very unique opportunity and a unique option that's only available in Illustrator. What it does, it converts this, and watch what happens here. Outline stroke, it becomes an actual filled object. As before, it looked like a line. Now it looks like an actual object, right? And now you can literally weld these two together, Pathfinder, and make them the same. But there's one more here. So let's duplicate this all over to the other side. Now, you can also do this option, drag, go to the rotate option, right? Do this and put it in place, right? Is this accurate? No. Will it work? Sure, right? But my job is to teach you as much as I can getting professional, even results. So in this case, you want to split this right in half and basically mirror this all the way to the other side. It's like a mirror effect. To do that, we need to know where the middle is. The middle is right here. So I'm going to go and draw a guide right there, vertical guide to know where the middle is. So if I select this now, and I use the, I'm going to show you this tool here, reflect tool. So today, I don't know if you noticed, I went over some of the more additional transform tools, like we did scale, skew, shear, okay? Reshape, don't worry, it's a little miscellaneous. But this one's also important, reflect. We did do reflect under here. Remember we did object, transform. Remember we did reflect with the shadow. I want to show you the tool this time because the tool is very important. Because what you want to do is, look, even gives you an example without me clicking on how the tool works. But what I'm going to do is instead of me just, clicking here and doing that, right? You got to be in control. Control means this guide that I made, you have to click in the middle, anywhere in the middle, like here, right? And literally grab this and flip it to the other side. Now, if I hold Shift, Option and Shift, it copies it and locks it for you. So Option, Alt, if you have a PC, and then Shift. First Option, then Shift. As soon as you let go of the mouse, I'm going to nudge it to the right once, twice, maybe 3 times. So it's perfectly fitted in the right place. Then I can go ahead and grab these two and the head. If you notice now, they're not connected, but if I hit the Pathfinder option, which is, unite, it's going to be all one happy logo. There we go. And we're going to clear the guides. And this is how you can create the Android logo from scratch using a template And, assembly, disassembly, when you're done, you can literally select the whole thing and just group it for the sake of having, a completed logo. And you might say, well, why are we doing all this? Why are we drawing a logo if it's already there? A lot of times, companies lose the vector file. Trust me, I've done this many times. And all they have is this. And this is not good enough to print, to produce, to do lots of things with it, not just, print, even for websites. This is not good, right? So if you make a one from the Illustrator version, it's flawless. Look, it's perfect. It's vector. Doesn't get better than this, okay? So this is why you want to be able to have the power to draw in a digital environment like Illustrator, so you can produce anything visually, because you're going to be building websites and apps and all kinds of digital stuff. Well, you need to also know how to create your own, not just rely on the internet to get really crappy JPEGs all the time, right? Especially when it comes to logos. All right, so this is pretty much it for today's lesson. I'm going to hit the stop recording now and then ask questions after, just to keep it more private, I guess, because, some of you might want to go over certain things. And I'm going to do just that. Just make sure this assignment that I'm showing you, the WordMark logo, some of you already even handed it in, that's fine, but it's due this Wednesday. So if you need any help, if you're stuck with anything, come Wednesday's class, that's what it's for. Wednesdays are designated lab days. So sometimes I just show up and let you do your work, and that's fine. But sometimes I'll cover some things that are important, especially if you have questions and stuff, especially in the early period of the semester. I got to cover more material. So I'd like to take that opportunity on Wednesday and go over some things, okay? And then, of course, I'll give you some time to work as well and help you individually, as I've done last Wednesday. All right, so the logo assignment is due in 2 days, next Wednesday. I've done many, many examples how to do this. If you watch all 3 videos, including this one, you'll get an idea how it's done. And if that doesn't help you, come to class. I'll promise I can help you guys make this happen. All right. So having said all that, I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you for watching me, and I'll see you in class on Wednesday. Have yourself a wonderful week ahead, and see you then. Bye for now.